I had come across stories like this before, but I never imagined it would unfold in my own life, especially not involving me. So you can understand my surprise when, during dinner, my wife of nearly 2 decades said, "Honey, we need to talk." My heart started pounding, and I prepared myself for whatever was about to happen. Was she about to confess infidelity? Was she thinking about divorce? I couldn't help but question where things had gone wrong. I glanced at her from across the table, my hands trembling. "Go on," I managed to say, trying to stay calm. "What about?" "Well, first I want to say that I love you," she began, nervously sipping her wine. I noticed she hadn't eaten much and studied her every move, desperate for a clue about what was on her mind. The tension became unbearable, and I blurted out, "Maggie, have you cheated on me?" Her eyes widened in surprise. "No, never," she assured me. "I would never betray you still." The way she emphasized cheat left me feeling uneasy, although I felt slightly relieved. If it wasn't infidelity, then what could it be? "Are you planning to leave me?" I asked, dreading her answer. "Oh, George," she sighed. "Where are you getting these ideas from? I'm not leaving you. I love you." "Great," I replied. "I love you too. I want us to grow old together and share our lives." Maggie smiled warmly. "Me too, George, so what's the issue?" "Are you feeling unwell?" I asked, concerned. "I'm fine," she reassured me. "I didn't mean to worry you, but I've been feeling like something's off between us lately. With Meredith off to college, everything just feels different. It could be empty nest syndrome, or maybe a midlife crisis, but we seem to be stuck." While her words brought some relief, I was still concerned. "Stuck? What do you mean?" I asked. "Well, we're always so busy with work that we barely have time for each other. You're often away, and I'm at the office late. When we're home, we're exhausted. When was the last time we were close? When was the last time we made love?" she asked. I echoed her question, realizing I couldn't remember. It had been months since Maggie showed any interest, and I had been left to my own devices. "It's been a while, but every time I try, you turn me down. There's always an excuse," I said. "True," Maggie admitted. "I know I'm usually tired when you're in the mood, but it never stopped us when we were younger. We used to be intimate 3 or 4 times a week. Now it's more like every few months." But I agreed, growing frustrated. It seemed like she was blaming me, even though she was the one who kept saying no. "If it were up to me, we'd be intimate more often. I want us to break out of this routine," she explained. "I want to improve things between us so we can stay together for life. We're both feeling bored, George. We need to shake things up." "I'm not bored," I countered. "My life is plenty exciting. What do you have planned for tonight?" she asked, smirking. "I'm watching The Curse of Oak Island. They say tonight they'll make a big discovery," I replied, considering her words. "Don't they say that every week? And all they ever find is mud and bits of wood?" she teased. "Well, yeah," I admitted. "More or less." "See," she grinned. "Boring." "It's not boring, it's comfortable," I protested. "That's what happens after years of marriage, you get comfortable." "I don't want comfort," Maggie explained. "When we first got married, you used to be all over me every night. You haven't done that in years." "Is that what you want?" I asked, putting my fork down. "Do you want me to ravish you? I'll do it right now, if that's what you're after." "That's not what I meant, George. Honestly, I have just as little interest in being intimate as you do. But it worries me. We're still in our 40s. We have years ahead. If we've lost this much spark already, what will we have left later? How will we stay together?" "We'll stick together because we're married. That's what people do. We're used to each other and we're comfortable. Who says I'm not interested in being close to you?" I argued. "George, we're like roommates now, but comfortable ones," she said softly. "I think we're more than that. We still make love sometimes, and we love each other," I pointed out. "So we're roommates with occasional benefits," she asked. "Yes, I love you, George, and I know you love me. But can you honestly say you're still head over heels for me like you were when we first got married?" "It's different now," I tried to explain. "Like a fine wine, our love has matured over time. We're older, and our desire isn't as strong, but it could be," she said, taking my hand. "Don't you want to feel the excitement and chemistry again, like we used to?" "I'm not sure, Maggie. I like how things are now. I mean, yes, I'd love more intimacy, but I enjoy coming home and relaxing with you in peace. We've worked hard to get here. It's like that old hammock in the backyard. For almost 20 years. I've told myself that one day I'll just lie there and read a book. Now that I'm ready to do that, you're telling me to get rid of it." Maggie listened carefully before shaking her head. I don't understand that metaphor, George. I'm not asking you to give anything up. I'm saying we need to reignite our romance. Bring some spark back into our lives before it's too late. My desire isn't gone, it's just been quiet. I want to feel the excitement we used to have when we couldn't get enough of each other, so you're saying our sex life isn't satisfying anymore? I asked, confused. No, not at all, she reassured me. You're a wonderful lover. You've always known how to make me happy, and I've never faked it with you. The issue isn't that our lovemaking is bad, it's that we never seem to want it. What are you trying to say? I asked, feeling lost. I'm saying I need more. It feels like we've stopped being lovers and become just partners. I want to feel your love for me again. I want to rekindle my love for you, to bring back the passion, desire, and closeness. But you said you didn't want intimacy, so do you? Or don't you? I want to want intimacy, she clarified. It sounds like you're trying to feel young again. Are you sure this isn't just a result of your hormones acting up? Are you experiencing hot flashes? Don't go there, George, she snapped, clearly upset. Don't reduce my feelings to just hormones or being a woman. Just because I'm emotional doesn't mean it's PMS, and wanting to revive our love doesn't mean I'm going through menopause. You're right, I quickly apologized. That was a thoughtless thing to say. I'm just trying to understand where all this is coming from so suddenly. George, it's not sudden. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I'm afraid if we don't make some big changes to reignite our relationship, our marriage won't survive, she said, her eyes filling with tears. I could see she was truly upset. To be honest, we had been on autopilot for a while. Well, if this didn't come out of nowhere, I said, a bit annoyed, why bring it up now? Why didn't you talk to me about this sooner? It's taken me time to get to this point, she explained. But I'm telling you now because I couldn't let it keep eating away at me. Maybe she had a valid point. I loved Maggie and I'd do almost anything to make her happy and strengthen our relationship. Okay, I'm listening, I said softly. I can see you've put a lot of thought into this and it's clearly important to you. What do you think we should do? Should we consider seeing a marriage counselor? I've heard about intimacy coaches too. Should I look into that? She smiled through her tears and nodded. Those are great suggestions. I think we should definitely explore those options. I've also had a few other ideas like what I asked. Well, let me start by asking you something first. Your company is a creative agency, right? You always tell me how it's one of the best. Yeah, we're one of the top 2 in the state, maybe even top 5 in the country. But what does that have to do with our relationship? I asked, confused. Do you hire the best people? She continued. Absolutely, I replied. And how many of them have been there for, let's say, 20 years? None. Our company has only been around for 6 years. We're always bringing in fresh talent because there's a lot of turnover in our industry. Right, so you're constantly bringing in new people with fresh ideas and different ways of thinking, she pressed. Yes, we pride ourselves on innovation. New hires bring fresh skills and energy, and it makes everything better for the company. Exactly, she said. Where am I going with this, George? We're hitting our 20-year mark next month. We were together for 3 years before that, so for almost 23 years we've only been with each other. I was your first, and aside from 2 girlfriends before me, I've been the only one. I started feeling uneasy, sensing where this was heading. That's true, I admitted, a knot forming in my stomach. Now, would you hire someone at your company who learned everything 23 years ago and never updated their skills or brought in any fresh ideas? Would you want employees who only worked occasionally without improving? Would your company still be the best if no one pushed to innovate? Of course not, I replied. But what does that have to do with us? I'm saying, George, that 23 years ago we were at our peak. Our love life was exciting and we were passionate, but over time things changed. We became parents, then professionals, and life got busy. We honed our skills in other areas, but we neglected our connection with each other. We kept doing things the same way as before, and it got boring. The excitement faded, and we grew tired of the routine. What are you getting at, Maggie? I asked, feeling even more uneasy. I'm saying I'm done with comfort, George. I'm tired of it. I want something fresh, something exciting. I want to learn new things and improve our love life. I want to use that to reignite the spark we've lost and shake up our dull routine. I want to feel loved again, to have a partner who's passionate, not just a roommate. Her words made my heart race. I wasn't sure if it was anxiety or adrenaline kicking in, but I felt shaky. Okay, I said nervously. I'll do whatever it takes to bring back the passion. We can plan regular date nights, do things you enjoy. I'll cut back on TV and we can find a hobby to share. We can travel more, take a trip every month, even if it's just to a local hotel for a night. Maggie gently took my hand, kissed it, and shook her head. George, I know you'd move mountains for me if you could. I know you think those ideas would help, but in the end it's still just us doing them. We'll still be stuck in the same routine, and eventually we'll get bored with those ideas too. They're a good start. But they're too safe. We won't be really learning or exploring anything new. So what's your plan then? I asked, confused and feeling a bit lost. What exactly are you suggesting? Are you saying we should try something like going to a swingers resort? Oh God, no, she replied, looking horrified. I couldn't handle a place like that. I don't want to be around creepy people trying to pressure us into casual hookups. That's not what I'm talking about at all, then what I asked, feeling frustrated and still not understanding where she was going with this. I think we need something drastic to shake things up, to give our relationship a reboot, something fresh and exciting to rekindle our romance and reignite the spark in our love life. At this point, I was open to almost anything she had in mind. That sounds interesting. I'm willing to consider it. How do you suggest we do that? I asked. I think I should start seeing other people. Anything but that, I blurted, pulling my hands away from hers and giving her a bewildered look. Say that again. I don't think I heard you right. I said, I'm thinking about dating other people. Yeah, I got that, loud and clear, I said, leaning back in my chair, then leaning forward again to stare at her as if she had lost her mind. Are you serious? She seemed surprised by my reaction. Yes, I am. I've given this a lot of thought. I believe it's what we need. Maggie, you've had some wild ideas before, but this one is really out there. I don't see it that way, George. If you let me explain, you'll understand. Go ahead, explain how dating other guys is going to help our relationship and spice up our love life, I said, growing frustrated. George, I'm not talking about cheating on you. That's not what I mean at all. So, you want to go on dates with other men instead of me? Yes, exactly. Real dates. Like romantic ones. Yes, that's the idea. Just like a regular date, as if we weren't married. I hadn't thought of it exactly that way, but yes, a genuine date. So, would he get intimate with you on the first date, or would you make him wait, like you did with me? I asked, my voice filled with sarcasm. George, I never said anything about intimacy. True, but you mentioned a real date, and on real dates, intimacy often happens. So are you saying intimacy is off limits? Well, no, I'm not saying that. So you're open to it? I asked, my frustration growing. I didn't say that either. I'm just saying I'd see how things develop. So not only do you want to date other men, but you're open to getting intimate and forming relationships with them. You're twisting my words, George. Focus. You're only hearing what you want to hear. Yes or no, Maggie? Would you sleep with these guys? She paused. It's not that simple. Yes or no, I pressed. I guess yes, she finally admitted. Then that's being unfaithful. No, it's not, she replied calmly. How do you not see that as cheating? You're talking about dating, being intimate with another man that's being unfaithful. I was furious, feeling my temper rising. If I wasn't careful, this could get ugly fast. Maggie stayed calm, as she always did when I got angry, which only irritated me more. It was as if she was trying to prove she was more rational. It wouldn't be cheating, she explained, because you'd know about it and give your consent. You'd be fully aware of who I was with and what I was doing. I'd share everything with you when I got home. I exploded, practically yelling, so not only do you want to betray me, but you also want to humiliate me by making me complicit in it. What makes you think I'd ever agree to something like that? What's gotten into you? Did you really think I'd be okay with this madness? George, please calm down, she said, still speaking softly. There's no need to shout or use harsh words. Let's talk about this rationally. I stared at her, still in disbelief. Did you actually think I'd go along with this? I knew it might be hard for you to understand, but you love me and you're a reasonable man. I figured that once you calmed down, you'd see the logic behind it and agree to support me. Support you? while you're out with other men. George, it's not just about being with other men. If that was all I wanted, I could have done it years ago with lots of men. Heck, even your brother, your friends, even your boss, they've all made advances. But I didn't. I would never cheat on you. But you're suggesting it now. No, sweetheart, she corrected. This isn't cheating. It's not just for me, it's for both of us. It will bring excitement, new experiences. Our love life will come alive again, and you'll be part of it. We'll do this together. Wait, you want me to join you on these dates? Well, no, not literally. You'd stay home, and I'd go on the date. But when I got back, I'd share everything with you. I chuckled sarcastically. So you expect me to take care of you after you've been with him, and even clean up after him? She blushed, which shocked me. She really did want that. Well, that would be the ultimate way to show your love, she said softly. I'd freeze over before I ever did that, I replied coldly. Okay, we can skip that part, she offered. But this won't ruin our marriage. Being with someone else won't. It absolutely will, I shot back. You being intimate with another man will destroy us. It wouldn't be lovemaking, George. I saved that for you. I love you, not him. It would just be about the physical act. The physical act? What does that even mean? It means there wouldn't be any feelings involved. It would just be physical, nothing more. So, just the act, I repeated, trying to grasp her reasoning. Exactly, she confirmed. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want to have just the act with another guy? If it comes to that, yes, she admitted. And why? Why would you want that? She hesitated before answering. For variety, to try something different. So, I'm not enough for you. That's not true at all, she protested. I love being with you. You're amazing in bed. I don't want anyone else. If that were true, I said, my voice calm but firm, you wouldn't be considering this. The only reason you'd look to be with someone new is if you're hoping to find someone better than what you already have. That's not true, she responded without giving any proof. Oh, but it is, I argued back. I think about it. If you love sushi and you've found the best sushi restaurant right next door, but there are 20 other sushi spots in town, why would you bother trying them when you've already got the best sushi right here? She paused briefly before replying, to try something different. I suppose, but why go somewhere you know won't be as good if this place is the best? I pressed on. You wouldn't explore other options unless part of you believed one of them might be better. Maybe, just maybe, one could surpass the one you love. She looked a bit puzzled, lowering her head. If it's just about the act, why seek it elsewhere when you're content with our life in bed? If I fulfill your needs, why not focus on more connection with me? We rarely do it, after all. If you want more, we can have it more often, but instead you'd rather try it with someone else, hoping they're better or at least different. Clearly it's not only about closeness, or you're not satisfied with me, or you think he might be superior. She seemed confused, shaking her head. You're overcomplicating things. That's not it, she mumbled. Okay, so it's just about the act, right? I clarified. Yes, how many times do I have to say it? She replied. All right then, I have an idea, I said, smiling. Her expression lightened, and a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes. You do? What is it? She asked. If it's only about the act, I'm fine with you exploring it. She was taken aback. Wait, you are. I'll hire a male escort to come here and be intimate with you, I proposed. He'll be experienced in pleasing women, and I'll ensure he's well endowed and in good health, so you can have unprotected sex with him. This way, you can focus solely on the act and escort. Are you insane? She exclaimed. It's only about the act, I reiterated. If it's just the act, who it is shouldn't matter. He's just a stranger for you to enjoy. It's actually better this way, no emotional risk since he's random. He'll come, do his thing, and leave. You're making me sound like some street worker. I don't want to do it with a random guy. I need a connection with the person. I'm not just an object, she shot back. Exactly, I said with a smirk. So it's not just about the act. You want more than that. You want intimacy with someone you feel connected to. Her face turned red, and she struggled to respond. Okay, maybe that's partially true, she admitted, but it won't be significant. I chuckled. What do you mean by that? Not significant to who? Him. You, me to him. He knows I love you, and he's not expecting anything more, she explained. You really think it won't be meaningful to you? I asked. I do, she replied. Then why do it if it's meaningless? If it doesn't matter, why even bother? I pressed. Maggie, you're contradicting yourself. She buried her face in her hands, groaning. You're making this so confusing. It means something to me. We promised to share this kind of closeness only with each other when we got married. But now you're willing to toss that aside just to try something new with someone else. You want to explore that connection with someone you're attracted to. You're not satisfied with the intimacy we have or our bed life, so you're looking for an upgrade. No, that's not true, she whispered weakly. Then what are you hoping to gain? Do you think you'll find out he's not as good as me, or that he's not as well endowed? She stared blankly at me. Of course not, I snapped. You wouldn't even consider it if you thought it'd be the same or worse than what we have. You're only tempted because you suspect, or at least hope, it'll be much better. The thought excites you, I don't know. She yelled. I never thought about it that way. You're confusing me. So what happens when you come back after realizing he's better than me? Have you thought about that? I asked. I never thought about that, she stammered. What are you trying to say? How can you expect things between us to be the same after you've experienced something better with someone else? You claim this is to spice up our bed life, but what if he's better? You might not want to be with me anymore, and worse, I'll know you're just going through the motions with me. We'll just continue as we always have, she said softly. How am I supposed to do that? I countered. How can I keep going, knowing I don't fulfill you? How can I kiss you, knowing his kiss means more to you? How can I touch you, knowing you prefer his touch? She remained silent. How can I be intimate with you again if you're thinking of him? If he's better than me, how can you be satisfied with me? I didn't marry you to be second best. She shook her head, whispering, it won't happen that way. If you're so sure, then why do it at all? You're considering it because you think it'll be incredible, something we've never had. Otherwise you wouldn't even entertain the idea. When she didn't answer, I went on, and you know what's even worse? There's no way I can win in this. I love you, find you attractive, and only want you. I thought we had a great bed life, but now you're shutting that down. No matter how good we are, you're focused on how much better it could be with him, the excitement, the thrill, the risk. Even if we were equals, you'd still believe he's better. He wins, no matter what. She stared at me, speechless. I was beyond furious. Who's been filling your head with this nonsense, George? Please, she pleaded. Maggie, I'm serious. I'm done with this conversation. I will never agree to you seeing anyone else. I won't sit by while you're with someone else. And if you think for even a second that I'd let someone else touch you, then you're not the same person I married all those years ago. You've changed. She was completely shocked. I had never spoken to her so harshly before. George, you're blowing this way out of proportion, she said, tears streaming down her face. No, I'm not, I replied calmly, my voice unwavering. You're not taking this seriously enough. Get out of my house. I don't want you here anymore. You're right, we won't make it to 20 years. It's over now. Just the thought of suggesting something like this shows me you've already checked out of our marriage, so leave. I'm not leaving, she said defiantly. This is absurd. I live here. I'm your wife. We live here together, and you can't just kick me out. Let's talk about this like adults. Fine. Stay then, I said, grabbing my keys and wallet from the counter as I headed to the garage. Where are you going? She asked, panic evident in her voice, tears still flowing as she looked at me in disbelief. Anywhere but here. This place stinks, I replied. Please, George, don't leave. Let's talk about this. We can work through it, she pleaded desperately. I paused, turning back to face her. Here's the deal. I'll stay if you promise me one thing: never bring up this idea again or anything like it, and vow to stay faithful to me for the rest of our lives, just like we promised on our wedding day. No more thinking about other men, no more wanting anything besides us. Her eyes showed her inner conflict, her struggle clear as she seemed on the verge of breaking down. George, please, I think this might help us, she said weakly. That sounds like a no to me, I responded, opening the garage door. Her cries echoed behind me. Wait, please. I swear it. I promise I won't bring it up again, just don't leave. I turned once more, with one last thought on my mind. I don't know who's been filling your head with this garbage, but I'll figure it out. And if I find out you've been seeing him or sleeping with him, I'll divorce you. That's a fact. We're not dating, George. Nothing's happened. That's your last chance, I said. Fine, go ahead, be with your boyfriend. You probably already are. We haven't, I swear, she pleaded. If you want any hope of saving our marriage, you better not be lying. No more secrets, no more lies, no more games. I'm not, George, I swear. We only talked about it, she replied. You talked about sleeping with another man. This confirms everything I've been saying. Your request wasn't about meaningless sex. You wanted my permission to be with a specific guy you've already been planning something with. I'm disgusted, I said, which only made her cry harder. I can't even look at you right now. I'm sorry, George, I didn't think you'd react this way. He said you might be upset at first, but would eventually understand. Upset, I shouted. Who the heck is he? She hesitated. I glanced at the open garage door. By not telling me everything, you're choosing him over me. Stephen, she finally admitted. Stephen Archer, the consultant I've been working with recently. The guy from the dinner at Holy Hands. Yes, him. We've been talking. I needed to sit down. I shut the door and went back to the kitchen table, facing her. Tell me everything, I demanded. Everything, she asked, looking hesitant. Yes, I want to know all about your conversations, what you did, and everything about this man. She nodded. Can I sit? It's still your house, I replied. She nodded again, took a seat, and began to explain how things had spiraled out of control. For the next few hours, my wife revealed everything about Stephen Archer and how he had manipulated her. This had been going on for months. He'd started slowly, subtly influencing her with his nonsense. He was careful not to push too hard, knowing she'd catch on if he did. According to her, they had only talked so far, no physical contact, not even a kiss. That was part of his strategy. By not making any obvious moves, he convinced her that his intentions were innocent. He was waiting for me to agree before taking it further. By the time she finished, I realized two things. One, our marriage was likely in trouble, even if she cut ties with Stephen, and two, Stephen needed to face consequences. I needed a plan for both, but I felt stuck on what to do. I needed time to think. Are you still mad at me? Maggie asked. I don't know how to describe what I'm feeling, Maggie, I admitted. A big part of me is hurt and angry that you even considered what Stephen suggested. If you wanted to spice things up, there were plenty of other ways. Like maybe not rejecting me every time I wanted to be intimate. Maggie lowered her head, looking regretful. After a moment, she met my gaze again. What about the other part of you? I sighed. Another part of me feels sorry for you that you got manipulated by Stephen. That part of me wants to forgive you and move on. That sounds nice, Maggie said with a small smile. Can we just forget this happened and go back to how things were? No, we can't, I said honestly. There's still a part of me that wants to walk away and never look back. I might forgive you one day, but it's going to take time and effort. Maggie nodded, understanding. Is there any part of you that thinks this could be exciting or fun? Maggie, I yelled. Are you seriously asking me that after everything I've said? I'm sorry, she muttered, looking ashamed. I'm really sorry. So what now? She asked after a pause. To be honest, I don't know, I said. I need time to figure out what I want to do. The fact that you're still considering this says a lot. I'm really sorry. Please tell me you don't want a divorce, she pleaded. I don't know, I snapped. That depends on you. If I catch you lying again, it's over. If you don't cut Stephen off completely, it's over. He's probably going to ask me about it. What should I do? You need to decide what to tell him. Do you two talk outside of work? Call, text, anything? Not really, she explained. We mostly talk at work. Stephen made it clear we shouldn't contact each other outside the office, but he'll probably bring it up tomorrow. I don't know what to say. Should I tell him to forget about it? Absolutely, I said, thinking about how to deal with the guy who wanted my wife. Is he married? Maggie nodded. Yeah, she murmured. They just had their second child a few months ago. Good grief, Maggie, I exclaimed. He just had a baby, and you were considering messing around with him? What about his wife and their family? Did you even think about them? He said his wife was fine with it. They have an open marriage. And you believed him? I asked, watching her blush as she realized how naive she had been. Yeah, I guess I wanted to believe him. I see how stupid that was now. Maggie, I said, looking her over carefully, if we're going to save our marriage, you've got to be on my side, no matter what. If you hesitate or defend him in any way, we're done. I'm serious. I'm on your side, George, Maggie promised. You and our daughter are all that matter to me. Stay here, I said, getting up to grab my laptop. I sat down next to her and opened it. Have you checked his Facebook? A few times, she admitted, but he's not really active on social media. Find his profile for me, I said, sliding the laptop over to her. She typed quickly before saying, here it is. There wasn't much publicly visible, but it was enough. Stephen's Facebook profile had no relationship status, no family photos, not even a mention of his wife. So I switched over to LinkedIn and searched for Steve Archer. Bingo! He revealed more there than on Facebook. I now knew his wife's first name. Is her name Janet? I asked. Maggie nodded. I quickly searched for Janet Archer, which brought up 2 results. Is she a realtor or an IT recruiter? I inquired. She runs a high-end real estate agency that sells million-dollar homes, Maggie replied. I clicked on the realtor link, and her profile appeared showing a stunning young blonde woman. Could this be her, I wondered, staring at the attractive wife of Maggie's would-be middle-aged lover? I don't think so, Maggie said. I've never seen her picture. But this lady doesn't fit the description he gave me. He said she was older, overweight, and not very attractive. I laughed. Of course he did. This Janet Archer looked youthful, fit, and beautiful. I pulled up her Facebook page. Check this out, I said, noting that her public profile showed she was married to a Steve and had 2 daughters, Selena and Catherine. Sound familiar? I asked. Yeah, Maggie admitted, looking at the photos. Those are Stephen's daughters' names. As I scrolled down, I found several family pictures, including some from a recent youth cheerleading event. There was Janet with her daughters, and next to them, smiling, was Steve. Maggie gasped. That's him. Honestly, Maggie, I said, pulling up more photos of Steve and his wife, why would he be interested in you when he has such a gorgeous wife at home? Maggie's face fell. I don't know, she stammered, on the verge of tears again. But he told me things were different. You said they're in an open marriage, right? I asked. That's what he said, Maggie replied, though her voice now sounded unsure. I found some photos of Janet in a bikini and whistled. Maybe I overreacted, I said, staring at her pretty face. Maybe I've been looking at this the wrong way. What do you mean? Maggie asked. Do you have his number? I asked. Maggie looked anxious. Yeah, why? She replied. You're not going to call him, are you? Nope, I said, handing her the phone. You are. Maggie looked shocked. I can't do that. You promised you'd support me no matter what, she protested. I did, and I'm still with you, I assured her. So go ahead, give him a call. Okay, I will, she agreed, but hesitated. But before I do, why do you want me to? I grinned. Well, Stephen wants to sleep with you, right? Maggie nodded. So if I let him do that, don't you think it's only fair that I get to sleep with his wife? Maggie's jaw dropped. Wait, you're serious? You want to sleep with his wife? I pointed at Janet's bikini photo. Look at her. She's hot. That's not happening, Maggie declared firmly. I chuckled. You wanted to spice up our love life, right? Yeah, Maggie admitted, crossing her arms. I did. And you thought hooking up with Stephen would do that? I pressed. So wouldn't it be even more exciting if I hooked up with his wife too? They're in an open marriage, after all. Yes, but Maggie hesitated. It wasn't supposed to be about you being with someone else. Really, I teased. So she's just some random woman to you? She's married to Stephen and can be with other men, Maggie reasoned. But it's not the same. Why not? I asked. What's the difference? How is me being with Janet any different from you and Stephen? She's too good-looking, Maggie muttered. So it's fine if I sleep with someone less attractive, I countered. That's not what I meant, Maggie sighed, defeated. It's just different. Are you afraid I'll enjoy it too much? I teased. Maybe, she admitted. Or that I'll prefer her over you, I continued. Maybe, Maggie whispered. Or that I'll be thinking about her when I'm with you, I pushed further. Yes, damn it, Maggie finally confessed. I see where you're going with this, but we agreed to drop it. Yeah, but that was before I saw her, I confessed. And now I'm thinking your idea isn't so bad after all. So, just because you find her attractive, you're okay with me and Stephen now, Maggie retorted. Exactly, I said. Why not? It's only fair. You're such a jerk, Maggie snapped. Wait, I'm a jerk because I want things to be equal? You're the one who wanted to sleep with someone else. I'm just going along with it. No, you're twisting everything. That's not what I had in mind, Maggie argued, her voice shaky. Maggie, let's calm down and talk this through like adults, I said, using her own words. I think this could actually work for us. I don't want any part of this anymore, Maggie said. You've talked me out of it. It was a mistake. Let's not rush, I said, scrolling through her phone. Why don't we call your friend and see what he has to say? Don't call him, Maggie shouted. Relax, I said, signaling her to quiet down. It's okay. I'm just dialing his number now. A man answered in a hushed tone. Maggie, I told you not to call me at home. Hi, is this Stephen Archer? I asked. There was a long pause, followed by a click. The line went dead. That's odd, I said to my wife. Let me try calling him again. Maggie grabbed for the phone. Please don't. Shaish, I hushed her, pulling the phone out of her reach. You're having second thoughts, aren't you? Yes, Maggie admitted. Hello, Stephen, I said after dialing again. This is Maggie's husband. Are you there? Yeah, what do you want? Stephen responded, irritated. Is this a bad time? I asked. What do you want? He repeated, even more annoyed. Well, Maggie mentioned your idea about a date I started. There was silence for a moment before he responded. I think it could work, I continued, as Maggie tried to interrupt. With some clear boundaries and agreements, of course. Boundaries and agreements, Stephen repeated, sounding confused. Exactly, I confirmed. If you're going to be involved with my wife, let's keep everything out in the open. Stephen hesitated before replying, unsure of himself. I guess so, he said with uncertainty. I mean, we don't want to build a marriage on lies and deception. I love Maggie and want to keep her, so I agreed as long as we're all honest and clear about what's happening. Yeah, sounds reasonable, Stephen added, nodding in agreement. Maggie stared at me in shock, her mouth wide open. When I met her gaze, she shook her head. Honey, I don't want to go through with this, she said, her voice trembling. I waved her off and turned back to Stephen. Why don't you go grab Janet and put her on speaker? Stephen, taken aback, asked, why his voice carried confusion. Why don't you bring Janet, your wife, the mother of your two daughters, Selena and Catherine? The woman you're in an open relationship with, so she can hear all the details, I explained. Listen. You jerk, Stephen snapped, his tone aggressive. I don't know what kind of game you're playing. Stephen, relax, I cut him off. I'm not playing games. Maggie told me you and Janet are swingers and that you're okay with whoever she's with. We were just looking at her bikini photos on Facebook, and to be honest, I'm pretty excited to be with her while you're with my wife. What? Stephen barked, his voice sharp. I'll be with Janet, and you'll be with Maggie. Isn't that what swingers do, swap partners? I asked. Keep my wife out of this, Stephen demanded angrily. Stephen, my friend, I said calmly. It's a little late for that. You've been pursuing my wife for months. Wasn't Janet pregnant with Selena during most of that time? Congratulations on the baby, by the way. I'm sure Janet's ready for some fun now. Shut up, Stephen yelled. I told you to leave Janet out of this. Oh, so she doesn't know you're after Maggie, I replied, raising an eyebrow. I thought you guys had an open marriage. I glanced at Maggie, who had her face buried in her hands, sobbing. In the background, I heard a woman's voice. Honey, what's going on? Who's on the phone? Janet asked. Nobody, it's fine. Just get the girls ready, Stephen responded hastily. Big day today, I continued. Catherine's cheerleading tournament is this afternoon. How do you know that? Stephen demanded, his voice filled with anger. It's amazing what you can find on Facebook, I chuckled. I've got an idea. I paused, waiting for his response. After a moment, Stephen asked, "What kind of idea?" "Why don't Maggie and I join you and Janet at the tournament? We'll fill her in on what she's missed, then grab a few drinks at a bar, get to know each other, and maybe head back for a fun evening. I'll even let you and Maggie have the master bedroom." Stephen growled over the phone, then hissed, "Stay away from my wife and kids, or I'll make sure you regret it." "Stephen, calm down," I said firmly. "You're the one who said we should be open with each other, and that includes Janet, right?" "Screw you," Stephen shouted. "Don't ever call me again." "Fine," I replied, "but I'll just call Janet then." "Wait," Stephen shouted before I could hang up. "How did you even get her number?" "That's not important," I said, brushing off his question. "What matters is that everyone knows what's going on between you and my wife and what your plans are." There was a brief silence before Stephen asked, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to stay away from Maggie," I snapped. "If I find out you've been near her, I'll tell Janet everything." "Understood," Stephen mumbled, sounding defeated. "But we work together. I can't just avoid her completely." "But Maggie's off for the next 2 weeks," I told him. "By the time she's back, you'd better be long gone from that company. You're a consultant, right? Tell your bosses that things got too close with one of the wives, and it's best for the account to reassign you. They'll probably have you out of there before Maggie returns." "And if I don't?" Stephen challenged. "Maggie," I said, turning to her, "call Janet and tell her everything." Maggie looked at me, surprised, knowing I was bluffing, but Stephen didn't. I signaled for her to go along. "All right," she said, wiping her tears. "Wait," Stephen shouted, panic in his voice. "Okay, I'll talk to them first thing in the morning." "Good," I replied. "You're not as clueless as Maggie thought. One more thing, Maggie's listening. Apologize to her." I could hear Stephen's frustration, but after a deep breath he muttered, "Sorry, Maggie." Before Maggie could respond, I stepped in. "Don't ever reach out to her again. Now, go enjoy Catherine's tournament with your family. Best of luck to her." I hung up the phone and tossed it on the counter, turning to face Maggie. Her eyes were full of regret. "I'm so sorry," she began, but I raised a hand to stop her. "Tomorrow, call your boss and explain you need a 2-week break due to a family emergency," I instructed. She nodded, avoiding my eyes. "Now," I said, my voice firm, "take off your pants, bend over the table, and let me show you how I feel." Maggie hesitated, meeting my gaze, sensing the anger behind my words. She bit her lip, but obeyed, bending over the kitchen table, brushing aside our untouched breakfast. I stood behind her and slapped her firmly on the butt, leaving a red mark as she winced. "You're mine, and no one else's," I growled, then made love to her with an intensity that hadn't been there before.